How to market a retail dispensary. Did you know that most retail dispensaries fail within the first few years? You can have the best product, the best location, the best staff. You could even be a really cool person. But if you don't do these particular things properly, you're setting yourself up for failure. Everything else you do goes fully to waste. If you don't know me yet, I'm Hi Chris. I've been in the wholesale business for over 20 years now, and I've also held one of California's earliest state distribution licenses. I also built and sold a licensed cultivation facility that I scaled to $3 million before launching Zodix in 2022. Zodix has been in over 100 licensed retail stores in California, and I followed that up with my other brand, Lowski, which launched in 2024, offering high-end indoor for affordable rates. Today, I teach cannabis entrepreneurs how to reach $100,000 months in revenue without owning a license. We go over how to scale your cannabis brand on my free private school community every day, as well as my one-on-one guidance program for cannabis entrepreneurs. So these days, when marketing gets talked about, the first thing that comes to mind for most people is social media. So the core social media platforms that I focus on is Instagram, X, YouTube. Those are the main three. There's a couple others you can incorporate, but it really comes down to your brand, your demographic, and the style of content you're putting out. So starting with the most popular, Instagram. And here you want organic, authentic growth. Don't buy fake followers. Don't try to do growth campaigns or nothing like that. Just focus on making quality content consistently and growing an organic following. So for Instagram, you really want to focus on an organic strategy. And this ultimately starts by giving authentic engagement to people you follow. So engage in their posts, leave comments, likes. Not only does this show support for them and creates a community, but it also puts your name out there so that when other people are seeing their posts, they see that you're engaging in it too, and you're part of this platform as well. You're not just one-sided trying to get all the likes for yourself. The other thing with Instagram is follow niche accounts. Follow other accounts in your niche. So if you're a retailer, obviously you want to follow other retail accounts, but also within your niche, follow the brand accounts, follow the cultivations, follow the manufacturers. All these components of the supply chain all lead up to retail anyway. So people might be following certain accounts, looking at their posts, and then they see your store commenting on it or liking it. They might just end up following you because they see that. And with Instagram, with all these social medias, keep in mind, it's a marathon, not a sprint. So don't make some posts for a week and expect your account to blow up, and then when it's not, you get discouraged and just stop. This is an ongoing thing. It's just like brushing your teeth. You gotta do it every single day, multiple times a day. Whether you like it or not, it needs to be done. And if you don't, the consequences are much worse than just doing it a couple minutes a day, a couple hours a day, whatever it takes. Next one is X, AKA Twitter. And this one obviously doesn't get as much traction as Instagram, but you still wanna focus on it and build it up for two reasons. Because it is an emerging platform, it's there to stay, it's not gonna go away. And secondly, it's more lenient to our industry. In our industry on Instagram, accounts get taken down, blocked, shadow banned all the time. At least with X, we know that's not gonna happen, and there's a growing community within our sector on X, and so the earlier you get in, the better. And to get good engagement on X, as with any social media platform, put out content that tends to be polarizing. So don't be in the middle of things. Choose your sides, ultimately. Believe in what you stand for and stand for it. And what's gonna happen is you're gonna repel the people that don't stand for it, and you're gonna attract the people that do. And the people that you attract are gonna be very loyal followers. So be polarizing instead of trying to appeal to everybody. YouTube, this is an entirely different strategy. This is where you wanna make evergreen content, stuff that people will come and see even a year, 2 years from now, you never know. So this could be more in-depth stuff, behind the scenes content, day in the life content, creating storylines, even about your team. So let's say you're a retail store and you have some of the same budtenders, store managers, buyers, all these people are gonna be the same people every day coming to work. So treat them like characters in your social media. So if you're doing behind the scenes and you're following your main bud tender, and say her name's Sylvia and she's got a great personality, and you ask her, hey Sylvia, what are you smoking today? What kind of stuff, what's our newest delivery we just got in? Whatever the questions are, have certain people that are consistently on your videos. And what that's gonna do is, just like with a movie, with a TV show, you're gonna have ongoing characters that the viewers start resonating with. And then weeks later, months later, you're gonna start seeing people not only requesting what's going on with them, but engaging in these storylines. Maybe Sylvia the bud tender ends up getting a promotion, and then maybe she ends up having a kid. Now, you mentioned that on some of them, and now you're creating an emotional connection with the viewers where they're like, yo, what's up with Sylvia? When's her kid gonna get born? Is she still gonna work there after that? What's gonna happen with her? Like, all these things from each employee, they each have their own storyline within your retail store, or even with your brand. This is a great concept to follow. So utilize your team. Your team is part of your business, and without your team, your business wouldn't exist, or your business wouldn't be profitable. If they feel comfortable on camera, engage with them and incorporate them into your storylines. And YouTube is a great place to do this, because you can have that longer form content. You can create more vlog style content, behind the scenes content, day in the life content, as well as educational content. And maybe even doing reviews too, reviews on new products at your store, events that your store puts on, patient appreciation days, store takeovers by brands. So document this stuff. Instead of trying to create content, instead of trying to fabricate viral posts, just document what's going on. And people really want to see the documentation, the behind the scenes, more some trending posts that everyone just keeps repeating. And then another platform to consider is TikTok. So what I've noticed on TikTok is it's easy to grow a good following. However, the quality of that following may not translate like how Instagram does. So even though you get more followers on TikTok, you may not see them consistently. They may not convert to customers. They may not even be in your country. So use TikTok for what it's worth. I'm not saying it's not worth using. However, TikTok seems to be more of a quantity rather than quality type platform, whereas Instagram is more about quality over quantity. Okay, so let's dive into some of the other marketing strategies outside of social media. So one way to do this is hosting invite-only events. Make it exclusive, make it special, add some nice touches to it, whether that be some entertainment, some food, whatever the case may be. Make it out of the ordinary, make it exclusive, make people have some kind of barrier entry to partake. And this doesn't have to just be a party, an event with a DJ, food, whatever. This could be a wellness event. It could be a meditation thing, a massage thing. Like a lot of wellness stuff goes hand in hand with cannabis, because it's not as much like how alcohol is to partying. Cannabis is more to wellness how alcohol is to partying. So you can incorporate these things, even quality food, or maybe a healthy chef, or product awareness days, product taste testing. So you can do some unique combined events with multiple facets to it that engage with the consumer, that get them excited, that want them to show up. And another component to this is by partnering with complementary brands. And again, it doesn't have to just be one type of, it doesn't have to be a patient appreciation day or store takeover or something. This could even be incorporating fashion, wellness, celebrity influencers, filming a commercial, let's say, and getting customers in the commercial and get them part of it and get them excited about it. So utilize your platform, your local platform, and you're broadcasting that to the world. So incorporate your locals and make that something that the world can see. Also leverage micro influencers at these events. So maybe they're local influencers. They don't have to have millions of followers and fans, but if they have a good organic following where they actually get good engagement, that's more valuable than how many followers they have. So get some quality people to attend your store events, and this is great cross promotion. So not only do you have influencers and micro influencers there, you have other brands there, you have your own platform that people are watching. So combining this, you're getting a lot of cross promotion and you're marketing to other people's audiences, and this just weaves a good foundation for your marketing. Next is your digital presence. And this is important. And this is one of the things that a lot of people seem to overlook or cut corners on. But you need to have a quality digital presence, and this starts with your website. And this website should look clean and on point and get the value of your business across very simply, very quickly. And on your website, you want to include blog posts and merchandise sales. And the blog posts is how SEO takes place. So SEO, if you're not aware, search engine optimization. And this is actually on its way out because of the AI, but you need to have this set up, the SEO, because even on AI searches, some of those are going to be referencing where you're at with SEO. So by having good SEO, even AI searches are going to start populating your business. Your SEO is dialed in on point. So to do good SEO, you need to have a blog section and be posting consistent blogs with target keywords, long tail keywords that target the audience you're looking to go after. And with the blog posts, things that are good to do with that is informative stuff, things that help the customer understand more, whether it's new products, whether it's what the store stands for, whether it's why they should be buying legal cannabis, whether that's even why they should be going to legal retail stores rather than just trap shops. The next component to pay attention to is email marketing. This is very powerful. And I feel like a lot of people discredit it because email's so old for us and it's not something new and shiny. And it's like trying to say like, oh, we send out mail in the post office and flyers to your house. People are like, how the fuck does that even work? Believe it or not, direct mailers actually still work to this day. And it's the same with email. Everyone looks at email like, oh, it's from the 90s, it's old. We're on Instagram now, we're on social media, we do videos, et cetera, but email is the biggest, best social media network there is. Because think about it, everyone checks their email, they have to. Your bills are attached to it, personal stuff, important stuff, you know, possibly even stuff about your kids, your family. So people don't ignore email, they just ignore the spam email or the constant low value emails where it's just they're trying to get something out of you, they're trying to make you buy something, et cetera. They're trying to give you something free in order to convert you into a customer. So don't make your email marketing like that. Just provide value up front, give them something that gives them a reason to open that email and deliver upon that reason, deliver on that promise. Don't make your email subjects clickbait and just have it turn into an ad for them to read. They're not gonna open your emails again. So as a retailer, you have this data, use it to your best of your ability. And the other component to having a digital presence is making data-driven decisions. And this is consistently growing and growing because not only do we have AI being incorporated, but all these platforms being used, you can plug them all together through back-end APIs. You can move and transport this data almost automatically. You can have other services analyze the data, and really you want to build this pipeline of data so that you have some form of dashboard. You can see the progress you're making. You can see when mistakes come up. You can see when problems arise that you have to give attention to. So really leverage the data, and this all stems from having your digital presence intact and having some back-end CRM system. And that's also going to be the way that you're going to connect through your email marketing. Even on certain CRMs like GHL, you can connect it to your Instagram. So all your Instagram messages become contacts in your CRM, and you can really dive deep into marketing strategies, have a lot of automations attached. So that way it doesn't rely on you waking up every day, clicking this, clicking that, doing this. And there's no excuse for you to not have consistent, reliable digital presence. Which leads us into my next point. And this is leveraging your customer data to market to efficiently and professionally. So as a retailer, you're in the unique position to be collecting all this retail data. And this is super valuable. And I'm sure you've heard how internet data is valuable in all these ways, even if it's just contact information, which it is. But with a retailer, you're getting such valuable data at the final stage. Everyone in this whole industry, whether they're cultivators, manufacturers, brands, distribution companies, it all funnels to the point of selling those products to customers. So you as a retailer, you're on the front lines selling those products to the customers. So not only do you have their data, their contact info, their age, male, female, maybe even their address, you know what areas they're from. So not only is that important, but that's what this whole industry funnels into is selling products to customers, to consumers. So like I said, any other component of the supply chain, cultivation, manufacturing, distribution, branding, all that comes to a final point of selling those products to customers. So you as a retail store, you have that final data of all those sales, what those customers are buying, what their buying patterns are. Do they buy them only when it's on sale? Do they buy it no matter what? Are they looking to hit certain plateaus on pricing? After it hits this price, sales drop off. They're looking for these sweet spots, being able to market back to them through email as well as text message, because that's another data point that as a retailer. So not only do you have all their data, but you can catalog it and refine it and look at it and cross-check it amongst other data points, whether that be their age, their location, male, female, what they're buying, what their average order volume is. So are they usually coming in only spending $50 or spending $100? That's a big difference right there. Like, why are they spending $100 versus only spending $50? When they spend $50, what are they buying? When they spend $100, what are they buying? So pulling out these patterns, pulling out these data points, this data that you own as the retailer, not only is it valuable to you, but you can turn around and collaborate with, say, brands, distros, manufacturers, whoever it makes sense to collaborate with. And maybe by sharing that data with them, you guys can supercharge that data and do some collaborating marketing efforts. And to take it a step further, you can then segment this data into new customers, returning customers, customers who haven't returned in a while. And there's other groups you could put these into, but just out of those three right there, those would be completely different types of marketing campaigns you'd send out. If they haven't been there in a while, you're gonna be sending out different types of messages than if they were just in there yesterday. And also understanding if someone's buying only gummies and you got a big sale on gummies coming up, you're gonna wanna email your entire contact list that buys gummies or have bought gummies in the past and let them know, hey, you got this July 4th sale coming up and it's only on gummies. So utilizing this data gives you a lot of flexibility, and not only the flexibility of who to market to, but also effective marketing. Because let's say you're paying to send out some of these messages, whether it be emails or you're paying someone to do it, or you're getting charged per email sent, or it's on, say if you're running ads on Weed Maps and it's all about impressions and how many people are seeing that and then how many people click it. Which brings up another good point is Weed Maps. You can leverage this data and make it as efficient as possible by knowing who to market to, and by not doing blanket marketing. There's no point in sending ads out, say on Weed Maps, to people that don't smoke weed. And say if they're only doing edibles, you want to be able to segment stuff like that out, or at least call out to them. And if it is about edibles, you want to make your ad about that, so that way people who smoke weed aren't clicking on it and wasting your budget. And then also as a retailer, you can do collabs with brands and have them pay for certain components of your marketing because you have all this data. So for instance, there's a text message platform called Spring Big, where they'll send out compliant text messages to existing retail customers from the retailer's data list. So the retailer will have the phone numbers of all their customers. Spring Big obviously lets retailers pay for marketing campaigns, but they're costly and they charge per text. But let's say as a retailer, you could approach a brand, say me for instance with Zotix, a retailer could come to me and say, hey, we have all this customer data, we have all their text message, their phone numbers, and we have this platform Spring Big, which can message them out. But Spring Big charges us, say it's 50 cents a message or something. We want to send out 1,000 messages, it's going to cost $500. So they're saying, they might say to me, hey, you cover the cost of Spring Big, we'll put in the data, we have all the contacts, and let's do a campaign that sends out text messages to 1,000 people about this new product drop from Zotix. And so these are ways that as a retailer, as a dispensary, you can leverage the brands that are sitting on your shelf that are actually being sold to put profit in your pocket, get them to pay for some of this marketing spend. And it's a win-win situation because now the brand starts selling more product through your store, you reorder quicker, that brand has more sell-through velocity, and as a retailer, that sell-through velocity translates to profits in your bottom line. So if you made it this far, that means this video is for you. You're obviously, if you're not just interested in this, you're an actual participant in this industry. That's what this channel is for. subscribe to the channel, obviously. But if you want to get more in-depth, detailed information on the daily, join my free school community. The link's below. I'm on there every day. I put out content all the time on there that's not found in other places online. I also publish these very unique PDFs. They're very straightforward, step-by-step, in-depth. It's not just like some surface level ChatGPT PDFs. This is all, it comes from my head. It comes from concepts that I've dealt with. It's not AI generated. It's real information, actionable advice that you can put to use right away. So click that link below. Okay, so next part, I feel like I say this in all my videos, but it's mandatory in this industry, and that's compliance and risk management. So obviously, you need to stay compliant, whether you're a brand, a retailer, cultivator, distributor, doesn't matter. You need to be compliant in this industry. So as a retailer, be sure you're being compliant. There's so many ways to be uncompliant. It almost seems like it's a non-stop job, which is why a lot of these licenses require to have a dedicated compliance person. Obviously, you don't want to ignore packaging laws, any compliance stuff, and this includes from brands that you're stocking on your shelf. So be sure to check on new deliveries, make sure all the compliance on the packaging, on the manifests, on the COAs, on the track and trace, everything lines up and is what it's supposed to be. Quick and easy ways to ensure that it's not going to be a costly mistake on the back end for you, or even worse, a compliance issue that results in fines, inspections, or hopefully not even a loss of license, but that's worst case scenario. Another thing, and I have other videos about this, is 280E. So make sure you're being compliant with the IRS. You're withholding your 30% tax for 280E, especially as a retailer, because you're not gonna have a lot of cost of goods that you can roll your expenses into. And so with 280E, if you're a retailer, you unfortunately know what I'm talking about, where you can't write off all your everyday expenses for the business. You can only write off what's rolled into cost of goods sold. And with the retailer, there's not a lot of expenses that can be rolled into cost of goods sold, say if you were a cultivator. So be sure to stay on top of that 280E law, have a good finance team, have a great accountant and CPA, and they'll make sure you get through it properly. And another thing, as a retailer, whether you have a house brand or not, your retail is a brand. So the shop itself is a brand, whether or not you sell your own flower, edibles, vapes, doesn't matter. Just that shop alone is a brand. So be sure you have it set up properly. Obviously you need the right entities, but more importantly, make sure that brand is trademarked visually, as well as the name, as well as the logo, and trademark it for whatever you can, whether that's t-shirts, smoking accessories, because in this industry, you can't trademark the cannabis packaging, for instance, or if it's a retail store, but you can trademark merch that goes along with it, smoking accessories, things like that. So I have some good trademark lawyers I've used in the past. If you need some guidance on that, hit me up. The link's down below. And another piece of compliance to pay attention to is contracts. Make sure your contracts are in order, especially if there's any kind of licensing programs going on where you're licensing a brand under your license, licensing the likeness of the brand. Make sure there's contracts with your distributors. Make sure there's contracts even with your employees, whether that be NDAs or liability contracts. You have a variety of different contracts as an employer, as a business owner, and as a license holder in this industry. So be sure your paperwork's in order. It's a big part of compliance, keeping your head above water. Okay, to save some of the best pieces for last, I'm gonna dive into it. Even though it may seem simple, it's very important. And this is to have a hyper focus locally. You wanna own your neighborhood before trying to expand bigger. And this is the same concept that comes from the music industry. If you're gonna be an artist, if you're a rapper, a singer, performer, and you're trying to be at a national level or even international level, you need to conquer your local level first. You need to become that person, even if it's not in your hometown, because sometimes maybe that hometown isn't the fit, or maybe you come from Midwest where everyone in the hometown likes to listen to country music, but you're a rapper. Maybe you gotta move and relocate, and that all is part of the book, The Science of Getting Rich, which I recommend to anybody to read, especially if you're gonna be in entrepreneurship. And a key component from that book says you need to be in the area that you're focused on. If you're gonna be in the cannabis industry, you need to be in a place where the cannabis industry has an epicenter, where it's really going on. If you're on the outskirts of that, you're not gonna be able to make as much progress as if you're right in the middle of it. So for this industry, as a brand, I look to target California and New York, and there's other great states to be in too, but these are the two epicenters of this industry. So if you're struggling targeting your local audience, sometimes it may mean that you need to relocate, and that's more so as a brand. I understand if you're a retailer, you're stuck in that location, but that same concept applies. Before opening your retail location, what's my total population of my state? What is even my total population of my town or my city? And if you're a retail location, understand that unless you have a drop shipping type of thing or some sort of online ordering, understand that your retail dispensary is only serving locals. So not only do you need to have that good location locally with good foot traffic, but you got to look on a macro scale. How many people are even in that town? How many people out of that population even smoke weed or take edibles or consume in some kind of way? So these are ways that you can understand, especially if you haven't opened your store yet, is this a good location for me to be in? And if you have opened your store already, understand that you really, to make the best of that, focus on your local level. Even if it is a smaller market, focus on taking that over. You're gonna learn from your mistakes, you're gonna learn what works, you're gonna learn what doesn't, and then when you really refine it, make it efficient, understand what to do, what not to do, then you can really scale that up and start branching out to other places. Another piece that helps with that is budtender education. So don't skimp on paying attention to what your budtender needs, and whether that's education, support, reassurance, giving them some praise when they do a good job. A lot of that goes a long way. So these budtenders are on your front lines, and the budtenders are the lifeblood of this whole industry, in my opinion. They are the lifeblood for the brand sales as well as for the retailers. If it's not for those budtenders, quality budtenders that know what they're talking about and that also have the ability to test products on an ongoing basis, so that way they can make proper recommendations to the customers that come in and make sure that those customers are happy with those recommendations, so that those customers come back again and ask for more recommendations. But if, you know, Sylvia, your budtender, is making poor recommendations just because she's getting a commission on something, and she recommends this to the guy that comes in asking for vapes, and it's some shitty distillate vape with some fake terps, and she's just getting a commission on it, so she sells it to him. He smokes it. He's like, this is fucking disgusting. Why the fuck would she recommend this to me? So if he does come into that store again, he's for sure not gonna go to that same budtender or ask for her recommendation. And if he does come back in the store, he's gonna be skeptical of that. So you wanna make sure that your budtenders know what they're talking about, they're making good recommendations, and that they have samples to try. Obviously, as a retail store, you can't let all your employees sample all of your inventory. So a big part of that is you gotta actually work with brands, especially new brands, and ensure if we bring you into our store, put you on the shelves, we need budtender samples, especially in the beginning. And if you have new SKUs that drop, we wanna make sure that those budtenders get to experience that, so that way they can fully sell it, honestly. So budtender training, it's so important. You cannot overlook this or skimp on this. Otherwise, you're shooting yourself in the foot. And finally, doing local pop-ups and supporting your community. And this can just be a random event just to do it, you know, a summertime event, for instance, or it could be focused on an actual holiday, certain reason. Maybe that city has a local event going on at some point. Maybe do an offset of that for your store to support that. The whole town's gonna be involved with it. So be involved with your local events, and even put on your own events at the store when you can. Obviously that costs money, but it's gonna bring awareness and attention to your store. And it comes full circle too. When you're doing these events, when you're doing budtender training, when you're onboarding new brands, bringing them into the store, have your social media person, or if that's you, document all this. And again, don't think you have to make staged content or some TikTok content or some trending dances or something. Forget about all that. Focus on documenting your daily work, the progress of the shop, the progress of the industry, the progress of the brands, educational stuff. Like I was saying in the beginning, even employees, they have all their own storylines within your bubble of social media. So leverage that too. And being local, doing local events, doing brand awareness events, these are all great ways to document and then showcase that through your YouTube, through your Instagram, your TikTok, your Twitter. So it all comes full circle just by documenting what it is you're doing. So remember, marketing a dispensary is not about flashy ads. It's about building trust, community, and consistency. And this is important for the long-term growth of your retail dispensary. So going through this, I also want to touch on why a brand may be a better alternative to a retail store only. And it really comes down to this one point, and I'm going to make it clear, is a lot of the retailers that I interact with, I talk to, I ask questions to, I'm friends with, I tend to always ask a lot of the same questions. And I say, is retail even profitable right now? And I've heard it numerous times that the only way retail is profitable is if they have their own house brand. And that way they can capture the brand's profit as well as that retail profit. And because of the brand, they're double dipping basically. And so this is the only benefit that I've heard consistently to having a retail store, is to be able to sell your house brand and double dip on those profits. So any retail store that doesn't have a house brand most likely isn't that profitable, because in the license industry, to own a retail store, you have heavy compliance. So just the cost of compliance is a huge expense for these retailers. Next is your retail location. So you need to have good foot traffic. And in any industry, whether you're a restaurant, a shopping store, a retail store, or a dispensary, you need to have good foot traffic. And anywhere with good foot traffic, it's just like buying real estate. You want to buy a house on the beach, it's going to be way more expensive than a random ass house in a small ass neighborhood crunched up next to the next person with no view. So you have to understand that a retail location will make or break your business. So if you want to be downtown Main Street, front and center, that's going to cost more than if you're on some side alley, back road block that you now have to do extra marketing to in all different ways to just get people there. Versus if you're right downtown on Main Street where everybody's walking by, driving by, you have this stage, this audience that's always going to be going by it. And so those locations, just like buying beachfront property, it's going to be much higher rent. Your cost to even potentially succeed, your startup cost, your monthly rent cost is going to be extremely high. So that's a big downside to me, is now you have all these overhead costs, these carrying costs, these operational costs, in the hopes that you're going to be profitable. And like I'm saying, it really comes down to that retail store. Not only do you need to have good location, good foot traffic, good parking, and good marketing, but you also need to have that house brand to really leverage your profits. And what that house brand does is don't even think about it being double dipping, because that retail profit margin is the retail profit margin. But now what's happening is that house brand is actually generating profit as a brand, but that retailer owns that brand. So just because the retail shop's making some profit off having it on their shelf, the retail profit, the brand's also making its brand profit from the cost it took to package it, to buy the flower, to do the testing. So that's just like what I talk about with any brand. So it's like the retail store, you're having to do two things. You're having to be a retail store and you're having to be a brand at the same time. So in my opinion, a more flexible opportunity is to just be the brand. And that way you can be in hundreds of retail stores if you want. You don't have to take the liability on of making sure you have the right location, deal with the security, deal with the compliance, the licensing, the inspections, the employees, the taxes. That's the other thing, the retailers on the hook in California and New York, they have to pay the excise tax to the state. So it's a big burden. It means every 3 months, you're having to come out of pocket hundreds of thousands of dollars that you're just handing over to the state. And it hurts because that excise tax is about 15%. In some cases, it's a little bit higher when you take into account your local city tax. So as a retailer, you're getting the highest tax rate, you're getting the highest rent you could get charged, you're gonna have heavy compliance costs, heavy employee costs, heavy insurance costs, you're gonna get robbed, that's gonna be other costs. So it's like, you're basically just setting yourself up for failure unless you have a brand as a retailer. So I look at it like, why even deal with that huge headache? Let me just focus on the brand, make profit with that, and scale how many locations my brand is in. If this video resonated with you, be sure to click the link below, and I have a one-on-one guidance program to help get your brand from the streets onto these store shelves. And whether you already have a brand started or not, we can help you at any stage And I want to see as many of these independent brands get into the licensed market so we can pull back some of this market share from the corporate brands that have just raping the culture. So get your brand out there, get it on licensed store shelves. I'm not saying you got to turn your back on whatever operations you're doing now, but it's more adding to it. So do what you're doing now and get into the licensed market, because that licensed market play, even if it's not as profitable as what you're doing now, it's going to set you up for long-term profits and more so market share. In a sense, the market's wide open right now because as independent brands, we have the ability to chip away and take some of this market share away from these corporate brands. But as the market continues to mature and get bigger and more corporate money, and federal banking laws change and they allow lending to come into play, this market's just going to blow past what any of us are going to be able to hang on to. So get your market share established now, get a foothold in the market now, because that window of opportunity is closing very quick. So if you want some help with that, click the link below. It's exactly what my program's set up for. And it's also what this YouTube channel is set up for. There's massive value, all for free on here. I've even had many people tell me I should be charging for information I'm putting out for free on my YouTubes and even my Instagrams. So if you're watching and it's helped you, please let us know in the comments how it's helped. I appreciate your support, and that's why I keep making these videos.